Mike McGlinchey is done for the season. He tore his quad, and the 49ers are in even bigger trouble than they were after their horrific performance against the Cardinals. Given that news, I'm not really sure what they do at right tackle, and we'll discuss some of the possibilities. But the real tragedy of this injury lies in the fact that Mike McGlinchey was playing his best football in terms of pass protection here in 2021. We remember that the 49ers had really wanted Mike McGlinchey to pick up some weight, to be able to anchor better against edge rushers, and to generally be able to deliver in what's an extremely important facet of the game, especially that right tackle position, since so many elite edge rushers rush against that spot. And McGlinchey in 2018, after being drafted in 2019, and in 2020 had been a below average pass protector at right tackle. That all changed here in 2021. Mike McGlinchey put on those, 20 to 25 pounds. He was able to anchor better against those defensive ends, and he was able to keep enough of his athleticism to actually turn into an above average pass protector. In fact, Mike McGlinchey ranked number 18 of 49 qualifying offensive tackles in PFF's pass blocking productivity score here in 2021. It was the first time in his career that he had ranked above average in that regard. And that was a big reason why the 49ers had been a good pass protecting offensive line up until his injury against the Cardinals. Then the injury happened, and the 49ers all of a sudden just got completely caved in. And it's no surprise that this happened because Tom Compton had to play right tackle. And Tom Compton might be the worst right tackle in the entire league. Before McGlinchey got hurt, there had only been really one below average pass protector on the 49ers offensive line, and that was right guard Daniel Brunskill. Alex Mack was good at center. Laken Tomlinson had been a top 5 guy at left guard, and Trent Williams is obviously one of the best players in all of football. But now you have an absolute train wreck of a right side for the 49ers, and you saw it in action against Arizona. You have Daniel Brunskill and Tom Compton at right guard and right tackle, respectively. Now, the 49ers have been able to mask a lot of the Daniel Brunskill weaknesses at right guard with Mike McGlinchey playing relatively well at right tackle. They were unable to mask those weaknesses with Tom Compton playing next to Dan Brunskill at right tackle. So both of those players had near league worst pass block productivity scores, pass block efficiency scores against the Cardinals. The 49ers gave up 9 pressures between Brunskill and McGlinchey on that. Sorry, I don't want to mention Mike McGlinchey in that. Between Brunskill and Compton on that right side after Mike McGlinchey got hurt. So just devastating news for 49ers offensive line that was not insulated enough to handle this kind of injury. Now, if you remember throughout the offseason, I would just come and just beat this horse to death, but there was a reason why I did. I kept on saying the 49ers have to have at least 7 quality offensive linemen to make a serious run at anything because injuries are an inevitable portion of the game, especially up front. You saw it happen even in 2019 when this 49ers team went all the way to the Super Bowl. The tackles were compromised by injury. Both starters, Joe Staley and Mike McGlinchey, missed significant time in that season. But the 49ers got through it mainly because of Daniel Brunskill. He had a fantastic season as a versatile Swiss Army knife that the 49ers could use as a utility piece to plug and play anywhere. So I said they need at least 7 quality linemen because Brunskill is currently their starting right guard. And if they don't have enough quality linemen in the pipes defensively, then Daniel Brunskill is going to be stuck at that right guard position. He won't be able to provide the utility job that he did in 2019. And without that, the utility flexibility, the 49ers are going to be completely screwed along the offensive line. That's what I said this offseason before Mike McGlinchey got hurt. Well, lo and behold, McGlinchey is now hurt. And what do the 49ers do? They have a few options. I'm not sure any of these options is good, just to give you a heads up. They can either, here, why don't I make banners for these options so we could talk about all of them? They can move, as option 1, move Brunskill to right tackle. All right, let's talk about this option. You move Daniel Brunskill from right guard to right tackle. Brunskill has played well for the 49ers in spot duty at tackle in the past. In fact, I believe that Daniel Brunskill is a natural tackle more than he's a natural guard because he was a tight end at San Diego State. He's on the lighter end for a guard. You like the mobility, the athleticism. I think there's a reason why Brunskill played well for the 49ers at tackle in 2019. Maybe you try it again. Okay, that all sounds great. What are the downsides to this? Well, the downside to this is that you move Daniel Brunskill to right tackle. Who the hell do you play at right guard? Oh, their second round pick, Aaron Banks, you say. Well, in a world where the second round pick is performing in practice, is developing at a level that a second round pick should develop, that would make a whole lot of sense. But based on the limited action that we saw from Aaron Banks in the preseason, and based on the fact that the 49ers probably won't do this, they probably won't slot Aaron Banks in at right guard right now, something tells me that he's not coming along the way that the 49ers have wanted him to. And that is an indictment of the pick that they made in the second round. It was an interesting pick, to say the least, at the time, just because of Aaron Banks' size, much bigger than the prototypical Shanahan offensive lineman, especially right guard, who the 49ers, want to be athletic and move in space. But the 49ers swore, and they continue to say, that Aaron Banks can execute, even at his bigger size, can execute the blocks they need to. However, I've yet to see it in person. So if he can do that, please show me. And then the 49ers won't have a deep doo-doo kind of problem that they have right now along the offensive line, because they'd easily just be able to move Brunskill to right tackle and have Britt Banks slide in at right guard. But until I see it, I don't know if that's a viable option, just because the Aaron Banks pick so far is not turning into something productive for the 49ers. Now, I get it. Sometimes an offensive lineman who has to rework his body, who has to move from the large power size body to a little bit more of that Shanahan, quicker, nimbler body on the inside, maybe that's going to take time. So I don't want to sit up here and call Aaron Banks a definite bust right now as far as a draft pick goes. But the 49ers did put a lot of chips into this 2021 basket in terms of winning. And if Aaron Banks is not one of the 7 quality offensive linemen that allows your team to compete in the near term and to fill in a hole like the one that was just left by the McGlinchey injury, that's a problem, because Aaron Banks was a second-round pick. So I get it. The 49ers drafted Aaron Banks as potentially a future project, but this was a season in which they were trying to also win in 2021. And it was never realistic to expect all 5 starting 49ers offensive linemen to stay healthy throughout the entirety of this season. So a player like Aaron Banks was going to be needed to deliver sooner because of an instance like this, where you might have to move Brunskill to right tackle, but it didn't happen. Here's another option. This one, I think, is more likely, but even I am questioning whether or not it's going to happen. Move Jaylen Moore to right tackle. When the 49ers first drafted Jaylen Moore, they talked of him as a guard. And this is going to go along with key one right now. You could see where I'm going with this. They thought he might be a little undersized for the tackle position. But due to necessity, the 49ers started working Jaylen Moore at tackle, specifically left tackle, and he ended up starting a game in place of Trent Williams. It's hard to switch between left tackle and right tackle, especially for a player that the 49ers think is a natural guard at the NFL level. The reason we didn't see Jaylen Moore fill in for Mike McGlinchey in a pinch on Sunday is because the 49ers believe that all of his footwork and all of his practice had been at that left tackle spot, and they thought it'd be too much to ask a rookie to move to that right side. So instead, we saw Tom Compton, who is a very inefficient, I guess I'll just say a bad offensive lineman for the 49ers, play at right tackle, and he was a turnstile there, and that ended up being bad. But maybe with some more preparation, they have a week now to get ready for the Rams, the 49ers will be able to move Jaylen Moore to right tackle and at least get some kind of development train moving. However, they thought that Jaylen Moore was going to be a guard. That was the initial long-term plan for this team. So if they thought that, and he's too undersized to be an effective tackle, well, then he's probably still too undersized to be an effective down-by-down tackle on the right side. But I guess you just have to try it because the third option is one that nobody's going to like to read. Here it is. Start Tom Compton at right tackle. We could see why that's an issue. Get ready for Tom Compton against Von Miller next Monday night if this happens, and it won't be pretty for the 49ers. Now, to Jimmy Garoppolo's credit, he played well despite this sieve of an offensive line on the right side. So Jimmy Garoppolo is actually a plus quarterback for the 49ers right now. Maybe he can make something work. I don't know if Trey Lance would be able to make anything work behind this offensive line. And this is why it's such a important issue in the big picture. If the 49ers are going to get Trey Lance some developmental reps this season, if they're going to build something for a future, you need to have an offensive line in front of your franchise quarterback of the future. You can't just throw him out there and have him get mauled on every single down. Thankfully, Garoppolo is a quick release, and he's a veteran, and he was able to get around some of the offensive line issues yesterday. The 49ers obviously still lost, but most of this was on their defense. But throwing Trey Lance out there behind Tom Compton and Dan Brunskill, right tackle and right guard, doesn't sound great to me. And I don't know if Jaylen Moore at right tackle makes it much better because this guy, I think, is a good utility guard for the future. Maybe it's better than Tom Compton right now, but it's still a problem. And I don't know if moving Brunskill to right tackle makes it much better. And that all circles back to the fact that the 49ers wouldn't have an answer at right guard if they did that. Maybe you put Jaylen Moore in there at right guard. Maybe that's the compromise here that the 49ers find. Maybe that's the one I've talked myself into. Move Daniel Brunskill to right tackle, and then you can move Jaylen Moore into right guard, because I certainly don't think that Tom Compton solves anything anywhere for the 49ers at right tackle or right guard or wherever you put it. Colton McKivitz is obviously not, he's on the practice squad, but he hasn't been an answer for the 49ers. We saw him try to take over right guard last year. And Aaron Banks, I mean, your second round pick was supposed to be the guy that was this glue piece. So far, he hasn't been that. Maybe Aaron Banks has made massive strides. That would be so fitting for the 49ers. One Notre Dame guy goes down, another Notre Dame guy comes in, allows the 49ers to move forward offensively while not getting their quarterbacks injured. But I wouldn't hold my breath based on what we've heard so far. So if Aaron Banks is not that hinge point that the 49ers need at the right guard position, then I think they're going to have to move Brunskill to right tackle and have Jaylen Moore do what the second round pick can't. Let's see what happens. The bottom line is, though, this is a devastating injury for the 49ers. Mike McGlinchey was playing well. He made the strides they needed. This was a team that was actually pass protecting well. And the offense, to be honest, really wasn't a problem against the Arizona Cardinals. It was the defense. They had the pass protection. They had the QB play. I get it. The fumbles were a problem. Yes, I talked about that in the other YouTube live. But the offense was moving in a direction where it could be more explosive than it had been before, and it could make up for some of the defensive deficiencies, not Sunday's defensive deficiencies. Those came straight from hell for the 49ers. But the offense was actually doing some good stuff. Now that you lose Mike McGlinchey, I seriously question their ability to continue doing that, because Aaron Banks hasn't panned out yet. Again, maybe he'll pan out, but I don't know. Not looking good for the 49ers. What else do we have to answer here? Let me look at some of these comments. I mean, Gutierrez is not an NFL level player. He's the international exception. He's not going to be. He's an old school offensive tackle, bigger body. I mean, he's not going to fit into the system. He's good to have around for practices, but he's not going to be on a 53-man roster anytime soon. I mean, this just isn't true. Mike McGlinchey was playing good football this year. He was pass protecting well this year. You could have all your preconceived narratives about Mike McGlinchey, but this one isn't true. He was the number 18 out of 49 qualifying tackles in pass protection. He was above average. And now the 49ers don't have above average options. Even if Dan Brunskill proves to be one, what happens at right guard? This is why you need to stock up on offensive linemen, and not just on offensive linemen, on quality offensive linemen, because if you don't do it, you're not a title contender in the trenches. And yes, this might bless Banks with the chance and opportunity to be forged by fire or have a tough learning lesson at the very least. That might be what you have to do, because you've already invested that second-round pick in Aaron Banks. It better start returning something. Push has come to shove. The 49ers have reached this inflection point where something's going to happen. Those rookies are going to have to start delivering for them, or else it's going to get really, really bad. All right, guys, that's it. That is my analysis of the Mike McGlinchey situation. Really tough break for the 49ers, because he had turned a corner, and now he's hurt. Torn quad, He's done for the season. What will the 49ers do? I think I just went over all the options. So enjoy the rest of your day. Kyle Shanahan speaks in 3.5 hours.